Hello and welcome to another figure reviewing video. Today we will be taking a look at the Star Wars The Black Series recently released Mandalorians. Now, these are not extremely recent. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they actually came out towards the end of last year. So I have had these guys new in box for a while now, and I figured I would finally open them up. I do believe these were all either Walmart or Target exclusives. I think he was exclusive to Target, Walmart, Target, Walmart, if I'm not mistaken. So, yep, let's get these guys opened up. Starting off with the Mandalorian Privateer. First looks out of box. This guy looks pretty clean. Here's his jetpack. Got his blaster. I believe it's like a Wester or something. I can't remember that name. And then here is the Mandalorian himself, Privateer. Pretty good molded helmet. It looks like, yep, just one solid piece. There's no molded head separate underneath. So, you can look up that much, down that much. There is a separate joint at the neck. You can do that. This, there's a hinge right there. It looks like it might be, yeah, that can't get very far. Can't move very much. Same with this arm. The shoulder armor actually has an O-ring, so it just rests over, which definitely helps articulation out. Torso, it can do this. Forward, back, and then can pretty much do the splits. The knee bends this far back, not quite. Well, yeah, that's a little past 90. That foot has a lot of that's crazy how far back the foot goes. Swivel, and then, yeah. That's nuts. That feels like it's gonna break. That's crazy how far back that goes. And then same thing in this leg, that far out. Bend, no knee or thigh cut. And then, yeah, that one goes as far, but that's crazy how far that goes. The jetpack actually plugs into these holes right here, but this whole torso piece is actually an overlay. So you gotta make sure those holes are lined up. And then you can stick it right in there. Make sure the groove is lined up. Yep, ta-da. Blaster goes into his hands like so. I think it was a Wester 35 is what the pistol's called. There is actually a swivel at the gauntlet itself, which is pretty neat. This is definitely a good figure. It has really good articulation, so I would definitely say this is a good pickup. Not necessarily a need, because there's a lot of other Mandalorians, but yep, definitely a cool figure. 25 bucks, I would say try to get it around 20. Seems like it'd be a good price. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more, I don't know, up to you. Time for the Night Owl. Here she is out of box. She comes with this much smaller jetpack to fit the much smaller body. The same, I believe, Wester 35. I'm looking at the Mandalorian herself. It looks like I may have a bit of error in the paint app on the visor. Just kind of unfortunate. Rangefinder goes down. That far up, that far down. She does have a ball at the neck too, right under that collar. And then you can also see she does have a separate molded head sculpt under there. It looks like it might be Bo-Katan, but it's in like a tannish color. And then looking at the arms, She has this, that, hinge, same with this arm. At the torso, she goes down that far, up that far. She can pretty much do the splits. Knee goes back that far, so that's a really good cut actually. Not nearly as much foot articulation. Seems like it might be able to go forward a bit more than the privateer. Same with the other leg. There is actually no cut at the gauntlet. Just a single peg on the jetpack, so that just goes right in. And boom, stays pretty good. You can actually move it around a bit. And what I forgot to mention on the privateer was it also has 2 trigger hands, and then it's actually the same holster, so just slide the gun right in and it fits perfectly. Thoughts on this figure? I'd definitely say she's a good figure. Definitely not a necessity though. She does pair well with the privateer, but if you're not a die-hard Mandalorian fan, you don't necessarily need her. I'd say around 20 bucks would be a good price, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, still up to you. Now for the Shriek Hawk. First looks out of box. Here is the jetpack. It actually has really nice coloring. These can move, and they can also house the flame effect, I'm pretty sure. From the Deluxe Boba Fett set. Maybe not though. I would try it, but I do not have him out right now. This is the same blaster that came with the original Death Watch, except now it's got a really nice gold paint app to it. That looks really nice. And then the same, oh, it's actually different. That's a different pistol. It's got the very similar shiny silver, and then it's got some black. That's pretty good. Now looking at the Mandalorian himself. Nice paint up on the face. Underneath, same mold as the privateer. Same, I'm pretty sure the whole articulation scheme is the same as the privateer. You can do this, O-rings. So you do this, that, hinge. Same over here. Up here, that's an overlay. So you can get that far back, far forward. And going down to here. This may get in the way of moving the legs a little bit. Or maybe not. Nice mold for replicating the fabric. That looks really nice. I know some people would have preferred cloth. Not necessarily me, because right there you can see that it doesn't really get in the way that much, but it would be cool. Especially if it was wired, that would be a dream come true. Once again, make sure that holes in the overlay match up. Grab the jetpack, same pegs. Stick it right in there. And boom, stays on pretty nice and tight. Of course, seeing as how it is a different blaster, you do get a different holster. Still slides right in, nice and tight, fits perfect. See the end sticking out down there. It can be a bit difficult to get the blaster in the hand. As you can see, it's hard to get the thumb in there, and then it doesn't really fit it right. So you kind of have to stick the finger through the trigger and then kind of like that. This is definitely a nice figure. The articulation is really good, just like the privateer. The cloth rubber molds don't really get in the way much. And yep, I'd say it's a pretty good figure. I'd pay 20 to 25 for him. And last but definitely not least, the 2-pack. First looks out of box. Starting with accessories, you do get the same molded Night Owl jetpack, which is in a pretty nice color scheme, I'd say. And then you get the same Wester 35, which for some reason is just in plain silver. It's not like metallic or anything, I don't get why. But. And then you do get the same Deathwatch blaster in the same color scheme as the previous Shriekhawk. Now for the figure itself. I believe that is actually a newly sculpted helmet. I don't think that was on any other female Mandalorian before. So for other than the helmet, the other new sculpts, because everything seems to be about the same except this overlay cloth piece, and then the holster, which is molded to this other rubber cloth piece. Then under the head again, you do get another molded head, which I believe that might be Casca Reeves. I don't know. Can't tell which head it is, but you have another tan colored molded head underneath the helmet. Now for articulation, she does this, that, hinge, same over here, that hinge, still no cuff swivel. She looks up that much, down that much, not much movement. At the waist, this looks like it would hinder the movement a lot here. So yeah, you barely get any movement at all. There's next to no movement at the waist, besides sideways, which is also barely reachable. For the legs, you can do the splits, but that armor piece gets in the way. And then that far back. Ooh, that's a really nice cut at the knee. And then, oh, same articulation as the privateer. When it comes to the foot, that's really nice. You can get a lot of movement out of that. That's crazy. Alright, and then I forgot to mention before, every single one of these so far has had a thigh swivel. Now the holster is actually the same as the Night Owl, even though it is molded onto this new piece. Now the Deathwatch blaster is still a pain to get in there. Let's see, stick it in there. Make sure the thumb's sticking through, and then, yeah, I don't think the pointer finger would even reach through the trigger, so probably just leave it like that. That's probably as good as you're gonna get. Then of course the jetpack just pegs right in. First looks out of the box, you do get the same molded jetpack as the previous two Shriekhawk Mandalorians. Those do move. It is in a nice color scheme. You do get the same blaster as with the previous male Shriekhawk. And then the same Deathwatch blaster in the same color scheme that you get with the previous two Shriekhawk figures. Now for the figure itself, I really like the unique look about this. You can see it has a broken rangefinder. I really like the color scheme overall. But he has an awesome new molded overlay piece for the chest plate. And then I really like the placement of the holster. And I think that's the only new sculpt. So for articulation, he does have the same setup as the other. You can do this. That's overlay, or O-ring. Nice bend. There is actually a swivel at the cuff. Hinge. Same over here. This overlay piece is pretty soft. You can see it sinks in a lot in the back. I don't know if the other ones are like that. I didn't really look at that, but you can see it does. Goes really far back. That far forward. And then for the legs, you can do the splits. Decent cut. And then the wild articulation that the other ones have at the foot. So this one, it feels like it catches right there. It might break easier. Yeah, definitely watch out for that. Blaster goes in here. Nice and snug. I did forget to try this, and yep, comes up pretty easy. The overlay is a bit thicker, so I don't know how well this is gonna stay on. Oh yeah, it still fits really nice and snug. Because of the uniqueness of these two figures, I think picking up this 2-pack is definitely worth it. Price, I know it was on sale when it was on Walmart for a while, so I would definitely suggest picking them up, but for the price, I'm not sure what they go for, but definitely great pickups. So the final question, are these figures worth a spot on your shelf? I would say yes, for the most part. Before I even got these guys, there was already plenty of blue on the Mandalorian shelf, and yeah, these guys are just going to add a lot more blue. I do like how unique the Shrikhawks are. They add a lot of different personality to the shelf, or at least to the Mandalorians. I really hope Hasbro's cooking up a Mandalorian judge, or maybe some of the other ones that were a part of Mando's tribe. Besides Din Djarin himself, out of all the Mandalorians we have previously gotten, I would say the Privateer and the 2 male Shrikhawks have the best articulation at all of them so far. The females are pretty good, but they're kind of limited on certain spots. There isn't much improved from the Koska Reeves and Bo-Katan figures when it comes to articulation. Between all of these, I like the Shrikhawks the best, so if you were limited on which ones you could get, I definitely suggest putting the Shrikhawks over the Privateer and the Night Owl. So, yep, personally, I think these figures are worth it, and I am happy to add them to the shelf, even though there's a lot of blue. And hopefully Hasbro spits out some other unique colored Mandalorians. So, as always, happy hunting, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. They do fit.